Recording this. All right. All right. Good morning, real closers. Good morning. Good morning. How's it going, Gustavo? How's it going?
Hey, going good, man. Ready here, powering through another Monday. Happy Monday to everybody watching this.
Awesome. Awesome. And today we have a really nice conversation to have. If you looked at the title, have you tried everything but nothing is working? Like, what are you doing right now to get business? And what have you tried with no results? And
100%.
if you have no results, what should you do next? Right? What's next? And why are you not getting results right now? How is the market? Is the market really that bad where a lot of agents are struggling right now? Like, what's going on? Gustavo, what's your take on this?
Yeah, Roberto, and give people some background. This topic came about because I love going on the real estate forums online. I love chatting basically with my customers, right? So I go to a lot of forums where there's a lot of real estate agents, and also buyers and sellers too. I'll take a look at that. But I'm a service provider, right? So I work for agents. Agents are my target audience. So I'm always listening to what they're saying, good or bad, right? I want to hear it from them 100%, how they're feeling. And, I saw this one post that just jumped out at me, right? It was an agent that said that they got licensed when they were 19 years old. This was 2 years ago, right? And that this year they had not been able to close a single deal. Nothing, nada, right? And that they had tried everything, right? And they specifically mentioned they tried calling their database, cold calling, door knocking, open houses, and nothing was working. And they want to ask people, give it to me straight, right? Is it my age? What's missing? What's missing?
Oh, looks like we missed you now, Gustavo. All right, can everybody?
Can you hear me?
Okay, now you're back. You're back. You're first.
Okay, yeah, there you go. So hopefully you got most of that. It's just a very frustrated newer, not even a new agent, licensed for 2 years, right? So but licensed very young guy, and just very frustrated, right? I'm not even sure if it was a guy or a girl. To be very honest with you, it's an anonymous post, so they just kind of just say their story, and people can comment whatever they want, right? But it just struck me as just a big cry for help. They had tried everything, quote unquote everything, and nothing was working in this market. What should they do next, right? So I responded. Actually, I had one of my friends who's a coach offer to do a free call with them. Like, yeah, you know what? I can help you get back on track and everything, right? But the point I want to make is this: if someone in this market, 2023, is trying to build up and call their database, doing open houses, doing door knocking, doing cold calling, and none of it is quote unquote working, my only response to that is that you're doing it wrong. That's really my only response to that, right? Because I'm seeing people in all major markets getting deals closed this year. If your bar is closing one deal, I'm not even saying having a better year than 2022. Few people are doing that, right? But I'm just putting the bar very low. Closing deals from these lead sources. I can grab any market and grab dozens and dozens and hundreds probably of agents that are closing deals from all of those sources, right? And if you look at the local MLS, take a look at how many deals closed today, right? In one of the tightest markets for inventory, transaction volume is down, prices are going up, ironically, interest rates hovering at 7%, right? So in this environment, deals are closing every single day, okay? And this reminds me, Roberto, of the early days of the pandemic. I would have this chat with people. It was crazy. But back then, it wasn't obvious we were going to get out of that quickly, right? It seemed like we were going to go into a huge depression for a year or two or three, right? We weren't sure. But I would tell people, breathe, right? Take a deep breath, open up your MLS and see how many deals are closing today. This was probably May of 2020. Said it's the world hasn't ended. Look at your MLS. Just look at the numbers, breathe, and see that things have not come to a standstill, and just keep moving, right? Just keep moving. Do not look at the headlines, because Roberto, sometimes I'm really concerned. I always look at real estate news and real estate headlines because that's my job. I got to be aware of the market, but I'm always concerned that agents see news about national real estate trends, right? About national real estate news, and it becomes their destiny, right? transaction volume down 30% across the whole US. Oh my God, I'll never close a deal again. That's not true, right? That means if you were averaging 100 deals, you might close 70 this year. If you stay average and do nothing different, if you stay average and do nothing different, you're going to get close. You go from 100 to 70, right? If you did nothing different, okay? That's a big difference, right? That's the key. That's the key. If you don't roll with the punches and adapt, yeah, you're going to have 30% less business than you did last year, right? And for some agents, that's what's happening this year for them. And I get it. And I have empathy for that. That's tough. And some agents are bucking that trend and just getting an unfair share of the remaining 70%, okay? Of the remaining 70%. And that's what people need to understand, Roberto. There's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 4.5 million homes sold this year in the US, right? 4 to 4.5 million, which means 8 to 9 million sides this year. That's what we're trending for so far, right? It might go up, might go down, we're not sure, but about that number, okay? So you look at those numbers, it's just a question of you've got to work a little harder for each deal, right? That is it. And the more we dwell, the more we, blame the market, the more we kind of just go off and do not focus on that singular task, which is how to get more of those transactions, the more we're going to waste time and we're not going to see success. So when I see a post like the one I saw, the first thing I say, okay, it's not anything you're doing, right? Now, all that stuff works. All of those things work. All of those things work. Now let's break it down, right? When you called your database, how big is your database? Okay. How many times did you call it? What did you say when you were calling them? Okay. Because then it can help you, right? It just kind of ranting off and, saying the calling database is not working. What do I do? No. All of those things work. All of those things work, right? Why is it not working for you is a better question. That's a better question. Nothing's working. What do I do? No. Nothing is working for me. What can I do, right, to get better results from these activities? Because I think we have a tendency, I get it, I have empathy for that. We have a tendency to say, no, I mean, I'm doing this is not working. It must be that, right? Well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's you, because everything is definitely less effective than it was a year ago or 2 years ago, for sure. Well, the one exception being calling expired and withdrawals. That was dead 2 years ago. It's booming now, right? I got a client in one of my mastermind groups he made almost half a million in GCI before June 1st. And all he does is call expired and withdrawals.
Oh, wow. Nice.
That's it. He's in a mastermind group with me. And wow. Yet just doing expires and withdrawals, he just took it to the next level. He just doubled down. I think solo agent about to hire an assistant, because that's a lot of transactions and where he's at. It's a lot of deals. And I think he was doing somewhere between 10 to 20 listings a month, something like that, Roberto. Something just amazing. Solo guy. It was about in June when he did the talk, it was about to hire an assistant, because that's just insane, right? But 500,000. So he's someone that 2 years ago, that was impossible to do. There just wasn't enough volume in expired and canceled. That business was dead essentially 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. January of 2022, a lot of my clients said, I'm giving up on for sale by owners. I'm giving up on expireds. It's just too hard. There's not enough of them. And the competition is just unbelievable. And the owners are just crazy, right? If you weren't selling in that environment, 2023 is very different. 2023 is very, very different. There's agents that are building their business on expired for sale by owner and withdrawals. They couldn't do that a year or two ago, okay? So some people are just not following the trend. They're not following the trend. They're finding what works. They're getting good advice, getting good training, and they're going all in on what works. So that would be my advice to folks. If you are trying door knocking, cold calling, calling your database, open houses, and you're not getting anything from that, then there's a high probability that you're not doing it right. You're just not, right? You may come off as desperate. You're not adding any value. You come off as entitled, like where are my leads? Where are my deals? I'm doing the works. Where are my deals? The consumer doesn't care, folks, right? If you're not adding value to the consumer, to the client, of course they're not going to work with you, right? There's another 1,000 agents, 5,000 agents in Florida. There's 300,000 agents that will work with them. Okay, you got to come from contribution. You got to show that value, because otherwise they can't. And database. We went into one example, calling your database. How many people are in that database? How many times you contact them? What did you say when you contacted them? And what were the results of that, right? I would start there, like drill down into it, and get some good advice. And YouTube is your friend. If you can't afford a coach, you don't want to do coaching right now, it's fine. But get some advice from someone that knows what they're talking about, okay? Find those people that know. If you're going to do database calling, check out my free database class, 3 steps to database domination. Check it out. Just do what's there, right? Do it at least learn how to do it the right way, the proper way. Don't cut corners. Start there. Database is usually the most direct, fastest, highest ROI lead generation activity that most agents can do. Okay, that's just a fact, right? And this is coming from marketers. I mean, Roberto's a marketer. I'm a marketer. So coming from a marketer, I can tell you, your database is like, should be the highest ROI activity you can do.
Didn't you post in Real Closers a question like, where did your last deal come from? And like,
yeah, definitely.
80% was database?
Their sphere of influence, database, friends, family, past client, 100%. 100%. And I love posting that question because it just comes to show 70 to 80%, sometimes higher than that, is coming from their sphere. People that already know them. People that already know them is where the majority of agents get their deals from. The majority of them. There's a good chunk of them that don't. I get that. But even though I remember that my conversation with Brett Boone up in Oklahoma, #1 client of Power ISA, #1 producer in Oklahoma, his team. And he was a master at expired and physical, like a really good, the guy had a gift of gab, really good on the phone, And I asked him, what's his #1 lead source and what he loves the most? And he said database. It was unquestionably database. And I go, well, that's not an answer I expected. He goes, it's the highest ROI activity anyone can do. He goes, he made a lot of money calling expired and physical. Once he learned how to actually build and manage a database, he goes, that's the #1. And no one can join his team. I think he had like a 30-person team. No one can join his team without a list of 200 people, name, email, phone number, current address, 200 people. You can't even join his team without that. You can't join his team, right? So I thought that was very enlightening, and I thought, aha, I see, right? Not because he wasn't good at other lead sources. He was amazing at other lead sources, but he knew numbers, and numbers don't lie. Highest ROI per dollar spent, time spent, is going to be your database. So, but that's just one example, Roberto, that you can drill down in each one of these lead sources. Open houses. How many open houses are you attending? How many people do you talk to at these open houses, right? I always kind of prided myself when I attended open houses that it would take me, any open house can have 1 or 2 people or can have 30 people. It doesn't matter how many attend. It's how many conversations you have, right? And for me, out of every 4 or 5 conversations, I would get one solid lead, like someone that wanted to work with me. Whether they closed or not was another story, but I would get out of every 4 or 5 conversations. Sometimes I could get it in a single open house. A lot of times I did. Sometimes it would take a couple open houses to get 4 to 5 solid conversations, right? Like people actually talking to you back and forth, not someone that signs in, no thanks, I'm good, and doesn't want to pay attention to you. That's fine too. That's okay. But if you go into it expecting people to come to you and tell you what they want, and you just take their order and open the door for them, of course you're going to be frustrated with open houses. Of course you are, right? Because no one wants to work with me. I ask them questions they don't want to answer. Okay, you ask a different question, right? Instead of asking questions, why did you provide some value first, right? Hey, how would you check this out? Wouldn't this be interesting, right? The thing that I would do at open houses that made me so successful at them is that I only attended open houses very close to my office. Okay, I did that because #1, I wasn't willing to drive an hour for an open house, like half an hour, 45 minutes. I wasn't willing to do that. #2, those are the areas I knew really, really well. I knew them really well. I knew the builders. I knew the inventory. I knew some of the best lenders in the area. I knew the school districts, the up and coming projects. So when people would drive I was in the suburb, to give people context, a suburb of Seattle. So when people would drive up from Seattle, for example, they'd go to this open house and I talk to them. They go, holy cow, Gus really knows what the hell he's talking about. He really knows this area. He really knows the inventory here. He even pointed out some flaws in this property. He might want to have a better one down the road for me. I better talk to this guy, right? So that's how you get people to work with you, right? It's not just, oh, I got lucky and someone wanted to pick me out of all the little, agents running around. I'm the lucky one that got picked. Oh, look at me. You got to work for it, right? You got to convince people. The only difference right now, between right now, summer of 2023 and the summer of 2022 or 21 is that it takes more conversations than it did before, right? That's it, Roberto. That's the difference, right? If it took 4 or 5 conversations for me, it might take 8 or 9 conversations now to get a solid buyer lead, especially buyer leads, right? They got to be qualified buyer, motivated, qualified buyer that needs to buy, right? That's the difference. Okay. So you can either, be frustrated by that, complain about that, vent about that, or in the case of this agent that I saw, just claim that nothing works anymore, right? Because he's doing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 conversations, nothing's happening. He goes, it's because it's 8 or 9. You gave up at 6, right? That's the difference. That's the difference. And it's obvious when you say it that way. When you're on the ground and feeling that, it can be very difficult to keep going if no one's cheering you on, no one's motivating you. I get it. I have empathy for that. But this is still reality. Okay. And, and I saw that post over the weekend, and I wanted to just, bring it to everyone's attention and kind of use it as kind of like a wake-up call. I want to shake people up and go, this is how you can end up if you're not doing things the right way. This is the kind of feeling, or maybe even every agent in this market is kind of hearing that in the back of their head. Nothing's working anymore. It's not working the same as a year ago, right? If you're calling expired for sold by owners and withdrawals, it's gangbusters, right? Compared to where it was a year ago. So change your perspective on that. Change your perspective, right? Adapt to the market of today. And if you're doing open houses and buyer leads online and, calling your database, it'll take more calls and more leads and more appointments than it did a year ago or a year and a half ago, right? It'll take more of those, but they still close. It still works. It still works.
The business is there. You got to find it.
You just got to, find it, put your head down, right? And get some better advice too, right? That's a big thing for me, right? Because when people go at it alone with nothing to compare against, you could give up at the 6th try, 7th try, right? Oh, this is not working. This doesn't work anymore. Well, what are people around you doing, right? That's why these masterminding groups or coaching groups or, any one of these communities, networking with their agents, this can be a really useful way to network with their agents, like compare notes, right? What's working? And again, compare, also always be careful, and a word from the wise, always be careful who you take advice from and who you compare yourself to. They better be in a position you want to be in. That's all I'm going to say, right? Because everyone has an opinion, Roberto. Everyone has an opinion on why this works or doesn't work. Is cold calling working? Is not working? Is online leads? Da, 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 da. Take advice and compare yourself to people that are where you want to be, right? If you want to be a better cold caller, don't ask someone that's never done cold calling for their advice, right? They're just going to say that, oh yeah, it doesn't work. Well, it didn't work for them. Ask someone that's getting results from cold calling. Ask them for advice, okay? And you would be surprised, most agents, if you reach out to them, a call, a text, an email, knock on their door, they might actually just give you some free advice, okay? So I would challenge you to do that, but be careful who you take advice from. Be careful who you compare yourself to, because they might be playing a completely different game than you and not even know what you're doing, right? So just careful with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And guys, if you're going through this, use the resources that you have. Real Closers. This is going live on Real Closers. Post questions in here. There's a lot of agents. If you've noticed that when a question is posted, a lot of agents jump in and try to help you. So use that to your advantage. Facebook groups, communities, leverage someone else's expertise to help you push forward. There is business to be had. You just got to work a little harder. And hopefully this conversation helped a little bit. So if you have questions, comments, drop them in the box, drop them in the comments below, and we'll be back again next Monday. Thank you, Gustavo.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
All right, have a good day.